Okay, everybody, we've now come to St. George's churchyard, and there's a lot of the stones are lying flat. I don't know whether they've just fallen down over time, but it's this little churchyard is tucked away, so it's not that easily found. But if you spend a bit of time, you can get here. We did. But we did a bit of research, and there was a certain individual, and he's buried here in St. George's churchyard. He was born in 1705, and what date did he die, Tim? 1739. So he didn't live to a ripe old age. His name was Richard Turpin, in other words known as Dick Turpin, the infamous highwayman. And he met his end here when he had actually been mixed up with gangs that did a lot of stealing and robbing, and then eventually he was actually caught. He had left the gang. He was caught with somebody's horse. He was locked up, and he met his end. They hung him. You can zoom in a little bit. Now it's said that after they hung him, they buried him here in this churchyard. Obviously this area here wasn't there, and I believe there was no marking on this grave until a lot later. But anyway, they say that grave robbers dug up the body, exhumed the body, and they took it away. I'm not too sure, possibly to sell it or whatever. But they were caught, the body was brought back, and it was reburied, but it's said that they buried it in, what was it, like a quicklime. So it would stop anybody else stealing the body again. But there's a little bit of controversy, and some people say that it's not his last resting place, and some say it is. So believe it or not, Dick Turpin, the infamous highwayman, which has been romanticized in a lot of movies, but he was not a very nice person. He actually killed somebody, he stole, he tortured. There was a case where he tortured a woman. He put her over a fire until she told him where her valuables were. Dick Turpin, the infamous highwayman. Okay, we're leaving this little graveyard now, and we just hope you found that interesting. There it is, everybody. St. George's Cemetery. On our right, we've got the plague house. I've covered that earlier on, but this treasurer's house has something very interesting, and I'll tell you about it when we get there. It's closed today, so we can't get into the property. I believe the gardens are free, but you pay to go into the building itself. Now you can pay to go down into the cellar, and you can also pay extra to go up into I would imagine up into the loft. Now I just want to tell you something here. We were talking about hauntings, but it is all gated up and closed, so we can't go in. But this is the treasurer's house. Now, what I want to tell you, it was a long time. I think it was 1953. There was a young chap, 18 years old at the time. He was down in the cellar. He was doing electrical work. I think it was electrical work. And while he was down there, suddenly he heard a trumpet blowing. And the next minute, through the wall came a horse pulling a cart. Not a real horse pulling a cart, obviously, but it was these ghostly figures. And after that came 2 lines of Roman legionnaires. Now the strange thing is they were wearing green tunics, and the shields they had were round. And as they came past him, he was obviously terrified, so he was crouching in a corner. He could only see these legionnaires from their knees upwards. And after this experience, he didn't want to tell anyone because he was scared that he would be teased or given a hard time. So he just kept it he just kept what he had seen a secret, or just kept it to himself. And many years later, he actually mentioned it. And at first, people didn't believe him because the tunics, obviously Roman tunics, are red. But there was a bit of research done, and they found that the Romans, based in this area, their dyes to colour their tunics had run out, so they had actually swapped and were starting to use a green dye. Now, he wouldn't have known that. So, and the other thing was the round shields, because the Romans, the legionnaires, had always used the rectangular shields, and these two had been changed. So it just all reinforced his experience. Now, the reason he could only see them from the knees up was later found out or explained that a Roman road in the same area, the same building, was found 15 inches below this ground level. So the Romans would have been walking on the Roman road, and this level of the building was 15 inches higher than the original Roman road, explaining why he only saw them from the knees up. But that was that actually occurred in this building, this treasurer's house. And yeah, this town, New York, is full of these ghost stories. But this one sounds very, very plausible. And unfortunately, the gentleman who told the story has just recently passed away. So that's quite sad. But I just had to bring you here. Unfortunately, we can't get into this area, even into the gardens. So I'm just showing you through the fence. And
yeah, they're only open from Saturday to Wednesdays, so we missed it. The gardens would have been free to enter, and then they have some garden tours inside the house itself.
It could have been quite an experience. But I think just for interest's sake, seeing we are doing haunted houses, and
well, maybe we have to come back one day.
Maybe do that.
Yeah.
Okay, here we're standing in front of the Golden Fleece. This pub goes back to 1503, so it's one of the oldest pubs here in York. And not only that, it's the most haunted pub in York. Now, there's been a lot of sightings, I think as many as 15 different sightings, different ghosts. And I'll give you a run through of a few of them that I know about. One of them was a young Canadian airman that was staying at the inn during the Second World War, and he fell from the upstairs window and was killed, and his ghost is sometimes seen in that room. There's also a tragic story of a young boy that was trampled by horses in front of this pub, and his ghost is sometimes seen running around in the pub. There's also, you have Lady Alice Pickett. Now that was the wife of the owner of this pub at the time. Her ghost can often be seen walking up and down the stairs, as well as along the passageways, and quite often moving things around. When you go down to the lower pub, there's a story of a one-eyed Jack. He's a gentleman wearing a red jacket dating back to the 16th, 17th century, and he's carrying a pistol and often seen in that corner with sometimes accompanied by a grumpy old man. And so this pub definitely has its full share of ghosts. Now, just behind the pub, you will see a skull sitting on a shelf. Now that skull is a replica of a skull belonging to Elizabeth Johnson. Now she was the last prisoner to be executed here in York, and that was 200 years ago. Okay, we've just found the Guy Fawkes Inn. Now evidently Guy Fawkes, he was born in a cottage that was, I think, still on this premise, but at the back. This building here is not the original where he was born. So, but this spot is where Guy Fawkes was born, and he went on to attempt to blow up the Houses of Parliament. He was caught, and he was sentenced to death, to hang on the gallows, as were his partners. And when he got onto the gallows, he evidently jumped off and broke his neck, so they didn't get to actually hang him. But no, this is where Guy Fawkes was born. Not in this building, as I said, but I believe in a cottage that's at the back. This here is the original part of the cottage, and you can see Guy Fawkes. This is the cottage where Guy Fawkes was born.